How can you protect what you can't see? Most organizations, they have no idea where their blind spots are, which is what makes them blind spots, and blind spots are not good from a visibility standpoint. You might think that you have a full picture of all of your assets, but it's time to ask, have we really accounted for all of them? Today is all about shining light on all of those unknowns. Without further ado, run the intro.
Who says tech can't be human?
What's going on, Hacker Valley fam? Welcome back to the show. I am joining you today from the big blue skies of Austin, Texas. The cybersecurity stories that affect me the most are the ones that are a bit personal in nature. They're touching, they're moving, they affect our lives. Think of your car breaking down because of a cybersecurity attack or breach, and think about going to the hospital and none of the equipment working. We get so caught up in the day-to-day operations of securing our SaaS and the cloud that I think sometimes we forget about the full picture. And my special guest is helping companies and teams regain visibility into their digital assets. My special guest for this episode is Wes Wright. Wes is Chief Healthcare Officer at Ordr. Ordr is also a sponsor to Hacker Valley and sponsoring this stream. Special thank you to Ordr. And most importantly, Wes, welcome to the show.
My pleasure to be here, Ron. You said something about getting their assets inventory back under control. It's my theory that it's probably never been under control. So now we can get it under control.
It feels like I used to have things under control. And then when I learned about a hot space called attack surface management, I started to realize that, okay, there's a lot that I still need to learn. So Wes, what is your affiliation with attack surface management? I used to work for an ASM vendor, but would love to hear what your introduction was.
Yeah, well, I've been a CIO, CTO, and when I couldn't dodge fast enough, every now and then a CISO as well throughout my career. And then when I came over to Ordr, I brought all that expertise, I guess, for lack of a better term. When you're a CTO, when you're a CISO, it's all about attack surface management. We didn't call it that back in the day when I was doing it. That's the newer term. So I've always been interested in, okay, what is out there that I don't know about? And that's the thing that keeps operational HDO, CIOs, CTOs up at night. What's out there that I don't know about? And that's how I became so interested in the what's out there marketplace. I actually, in my last field CTO gig, I brought Ordr in there just so I could see everything that I couldn't see on my network. Most people think they have a pretty good grasp of what's on their network because they know all their PCs and all their printers and so on and so forth. But
right,
as you and I have talked about, there's still, from our deployments and stuff, we see there's still another about 40% more stuff connected to your network outside the stuff that you know about. And that's attack surface just like anything else is. And if you don't know about it, you can't protect yourself from it.
Right. It's fascinating because we both were speaking about a statistic before starting up the stream. About 60% of your assets do you actually know about for many organizations. And I wonder why that is. Like, is it that we feel as though we have more visibility, or is it that 60% is just that manageable chunk that we're going after today?
No, I think it's the way people work. They work in silos or enclaves, I prefer to say. They work in enclaves. So your IT people know about their IT stuff. Your facilities people may or may not know about their facilities, so their HVAC equipment, their cameras, their parking lot meters and stuff like that. Organizations work with blinders on, really. It's just that's what you have to do to get the work done. And so this organization may think that they have a good handle on what is actually connected to the network, and think that another organization has the same good handle that they do. But it turns out they don't. They just stick things on the network, don't keep track of anything. So I think it's mostly the enclave / silo thing that you just don't bring those things together. And that's really what Ordr and products like ours do, is it brings all the information of all the stuff that is on your network together in one place, so you can see how all that stuff interacts together.
As someone that has spent a lot of time banging their head against the keyboard on trying to keep things organized, I appreciate the importance of something like this. But, what is typically the point of intrigue or curiosity that people have where it's like, okay, you know what, maybe I do need to investigate into things like Ordr and just, keeping like a true inventory of my assets?
Yeah, there's a couple of different avenues. For healthcare specifically, there's one more avenue that other enterprises won't have, and that's the clinical engineering group of folks that you'll find out at any health delivery organization. They have a difficult job in maintaining all the medical equipment within a health delivery organization. Maintaining it means keeping up on the patches and knowing what's connected to the network and so on and so forth. And so in healthcare, we'll find entry that way for a specific set of things, again, for a specific set of things. In other places, healthcare as well, our main consumer, I guess, of the information is probably cybersecurity. Because again, if you don't know what's on your network, you can't protect it. When I brought it in at my last location, I brought it in purely from an operational perspective, because I didn't know. If I asked my antivirus person how many PCs I had on the network, and I asked my EDR person, and then I asked my Microsoft person, I would get 3 different answers. And you can't do business that way. And so that's why I brought Ordr in a long time ago, is to give me this one answer. This is what's connected to the network, period. I don't care what this system says or that system says or that one says. I've got all the information from everybody, and it says this MAC and IP is this piece of equipment. So now everybody's got this stable, known data platform from which to do their work. And so you don't have your security folks getting on your desktop folks or server folks because, hey, we see that there's 120 machines that still need to be patched. And the desktop people say, oh, no, we patched them all. Well, no, with Ordr or with this type of product, the desktop people can see there's this many that don't have patch. The cybersecurity people, the CTO, the CIO, everybody can see what's happening with that one device. That's what's really cool, is when you start thinking about IT and IT security, IT operations from a perspective of, if I knew everything possible about this thing that connects to my network, you can answer it, just incredible questions with that.
When I first learned about attack surface management, especially looking at something like CAASM, which is cyber asset attack surface management, focus on the inside of your environment, it really made me rethink my entire career. It made me rethink my time as an automation engineer, made me rethink my time in the source space, because we were automating so much and trying to get this tool talking to this tool to ultimately remediate our findings. But this type of approach allows you to remediate before you get breached, before you see that security alert. By knowing where are my gaps, I want to plug the ones that are most essential to my business operations or my team or company being successful. But previously, my job was being a responder, was only to respond. But I think this enables security teams to be ahead of security incidents and events from happening.
Yeah, I mean, one of the cool things, think about it, again, back to, if you know everything about something that's connected to your network. So I know what it's talking to. I know what it should be talking to. And so when I see something doing something talking to something, a device talking outside of its normal parameter, then I can do something about, actually, back to your background, Ron, I can automatically do something about that. Say, hey, quarantine this device. If this, I can right click and say quarantine until I can figure out why it's talking to funny people or nefarious sites. If you know everything about a device, even from clinical or enterprise operations, hey, show me, and you can do this in our product. It's hooked up to one of those AI guys, Gemini, I think. But you say, hey, show me all the devices that talk to more than 20 other devices. And you can show that. And now you have the points of gravity in your system. So if there's more than 20 people talking to this device, well, that's an important device. So now you know where to focus all your protection, your remediation against. It's these devices that talk to a majority of other things on my network. So it's just as you get to the knowledge of a device, the use cases just keep popping up. You and I have talked about this before. This is a fairly new capability in healthcare IT and IT OT operations. Is this capability of being able to see everything about everything in a single place. This is a new technology that is just starting to get adopted. So I think and I work at Ordr, so I guess I should think this, but I think that once people see and begin to use all the knowledge that's around a single device, it'll transform the way we can do, maybe not transform, but definitely enhance the way we do security across the enterprises.
I agree. I 100% agree. Would you agree or disagree? CAASM is the logical progression / evolution for organizations that are only doing IT asset management.
The nature of what CAASM is, CAASM, and like you said, cyber asset attack surface management. Personally, being from Ordr, I think it should be connected asset attack surface management. But hey, that's just me. But he brings up a good point. In CAASM, what you're doing, what other vendors are doing exclusively, is they are hooking up to your APIs. So if you have a CrowdStrike API, you have Blue Cat as your IP manager, and maybe Okta as your we hook up to all of those tools that you already have on your network, and we take all the CAASM vendors take all the information from those APIs, put it into a database, correlate it, deduplicate it, we add context. And so really what you're looking at in a pure CAASM play is only things that talk to APIs. And by nature, that's usually just your PC inventory stuff. So that's a pure CAASM vendor does that. We recognize that, our roots came from seeing things that other people couldn't see, OT, IoT, IOMT stuff. And we realized CAASM is really cool because you can deploy it via software. You don't have to take any downtime or anything like that. You just type in some passwords and boom, you start getting data. Wouldn't it be cool if we could see the stuff that doesn't talk to APIs? So we also, when we deploy our CAASM product, we also deploy something we call the Ordr discovery engine that goes out and talks to those things and talks to switches that talk to other things that don't talk to APIs. So we can show you the full breadth of what's connected to your network. So if you want to get everything, that CAASM vendor has to bring their primary data source with them. And we do that at Ordr.
I love that. I think that's a game changer, especially with my experience in the CAASM space. We had to buy another subscription for our networking gear to then connect to that networking API. So, it's nice to be able to take things in your own hands because, the more things that you set up on some of these tools and services, the more money that you spend as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, but for, that's the beauty of CAASM is
Yep.
Sure, there's a little subscription cost to it, but you're not seeing the data uh, to where you can make action on it because it's in these siloed systems. And what CAASM is doing is bringing it all together so that you can see that, this is a Windows 7 machine, and we know, it needs to be quarantined, but it's sitting next to this Windows. Bringing all that data together tells a story that you're not capable of seeing when it's like slices of that.
I have to jump in for a second to share some details about our sponsor for this episode, Ordr. We all know the number of connected assets in any company is skyrocketing. And it's a real pain to keep track of everything, to understand the risks, and then to take action. And that's exactly where Ordr comes into play. They collect all of your asset data from IT and network security tools, your network traffic, and they find those hard to find devices. They don't just stop there, they turn that data into actionable intelligence that powers automated fixes and policy enforcement. So whether you're looking to find assets that are missing security controls, prioritize patches, or enforce microsegmentation, Ordr makes this simple. To learn more about Ordr and how they can reduce your attack surface, visit ordr.net today. Thank you, Ordr, for sponsoring this episode. There's also a money-saving aspect, like you're mentioning. Yeah, huge money-saving aspect. Yeah. I think, a lot of times when you start to build this inventory, you start to realize that, okay, wow, half of the security issues that I face deal with users that are no longer here, that no longer need licenses. You're able to save the money, but also save the vulnerability.
Well, and again, if you know everything about a device, in this instance, well, I know all the software that is on that device. We use Ordr software inventory collector. Tells you all the software, all the patch levels on the software. I know all the software on that device. I know who logs into that device. And now, because I'm connected to a Workday API, I can tell, hey, is that person who's logging into this device, are they actually in Workday as well? Or have they been terminated? So you can get down to that. That's something that back in my HDO day, we had to take a feed from our ERP system, and every day somebody in one of the departments would run through that and make sure that we've disabled that Active Directory account. Once you put all this stuff and all this information together, you can just automate so many different pieces of your vulnerability process that you have had to strong arm, for lack of a better term, for a long time.
So help me, paint a picture to all of this. I think it's easy to talk about the things that you can do. I remember when I worked in the source space, I would describe all of the amazing use cases that one could automate, and then we would get there and then they wouldn't actually do a lot of the things. So, what are the real pain points that people are feeling right now? And what are the immediate pain points that will be relieved a little bit with something like Ordr and ASM and CAASM?
Yeah, there's a couple of different catalysts, pay points maybe, that folks are starting to pay attention to right now. So on the TSA side, TSA has recently put out some rules that anybody who's connected to the TSA has to have an accurate inventory of everything connected to their network. So, I mean, from that perspective, sorry about that. From that perspective, we're driving a long list of folks that are kind of got to get lined up for this inventory management, this complete asset inventory management process. And I think we're going to see maybe Medicare in a couple of years taking on the same TSA guidelines, the same mandates the TSA did, and saying, okay, healthcare, you have to have 100% inventory of everything connected to your network. And the reason they're doing this, Ron, CISA has all the documentation that CISA puts out the number one thing they say that you have to do as a security organization or as an IT organization is have an accurate inventory of your assets, period. So I think a lot of organizations are hung up on that, more than you would think. Again, this is fairly new technology. So when people read those mandates, they look at it and go, oh no, now I've got to take my spreadsheets that the AV guy uses and the spreadsheets that the desktop lady uses, and I got to mash those together and come up with something cool. No, CAASM products, our product, does all that for you. One of our primary use cases, actually, Ron, and you could probably see this, if somebody's standing up a CMDB, configuration management database, somebody's standing up a CMDB, they use us to populate it because we have bidirectional interface. Hey, here's everything we've connected on the network, and we know that that's right and true. So let's start the CMDB journey with that. And we can write all that to the CMDB so that you can start your visibility journey with things that are other than IT already added into your CMDB.
I love it. I love it. I love visibility. I love being able to answer questions. I think
exactly.
Solutions like this is your path to promotion, especially if you're already in a leadership position, getting your stakeholders immediate input on what are the most critical vulnerabilities. I know that, sometimes my boss would tap me on the shoulders during my time at Intel and quickly ask me for a statistic. And the worst thing was not being able to give it to them on the spot. And I think, something like this really gives you the ability to answer a slew of security related questions without going through all of those spreadsheets and trying to do these crazy formulas that, a security practitioner shouldn't be doing in the first place.
Exactly. I mean, it's mashing spreadsheets together and hoping you're coming up with a ballparky answer. And it's not just, this product, or it's, if I were back in the CTO, I wouldn't have to ask my AV person these questions anymore. I wouldn't have to ask my desktop. I could see that. It's a URL. How many vulnerabilities you got? Well, it's right there. I mean, you see it. I don't have to ask anybody. You can see it. I'm kind of on my soapbox about this complete asset visibility. Once you get that, the questions that, it's not just the visibility. You can see a bunch of stuff. Hell, scanners used to do that. I could see every MAC and IP on my network. Didn't know what it was, but I could see what every MAC and IP was on the network. It's the knowing part of knowing what that MAC and IP is, and knowing all the vulnerabilities, and knowing what OS they're on, and knowing what software they have, and knowing what users log into that device. When you put all that stuff together about every single device on the network, God, the questions you can answer are just incredible.
Could a CAASM tool such as Ordr help identify technical platform redundancies across an organization where disparate solutions exist? I think you've already been alluding to that, through this soapbox, but, maybe describe how it works in Ordr. What are those steps that a leader or a practitioner would have to communicate or take to figure out these redundancies?
Yeah, that's a great question. And actually one of another major use case that, particularly for the CAASM product, because it's so easy to deploy. So CAASM with Ordr Discovery Engine with Ordr Software Inventory Collector will tell you what applications, cloud applications as well, by the way, what applications your users are using. One, well, you can actually run two reports. We use it. It's used for soft application rationalization. So you run a report of what are people actually using, because you can see that in Ordr. What application did this user use? What are they using versus what do we have? And you start your application rationalization journey right there. So again, anything you want to know about a PC, what's the software on that PC? Or a server, what's the software on that server? Or a Linux box, or a Mac box, what's the software on there? We use Ordr Software Inventory Collector. It's a script. It's not an agent. We don't do agents. Most CAASM folks don't do agents. Um, and we gather all that data so that you don't have to, so that then you can make those decisions.
There's a few tools that I've experienced in my security career where I would recommend to not build them. So, email security is one of those tools that you don't want to build. You don't want to build it because emails are so dynamic. People are dynamic, and also culture is dynamic. All of these things play a factor in phishing and responding to those types of threats. This is one of those things where you don't want to maintain API connection after API connection, because that's going to take a full-time resource. And God forbid that person were to leave. Now you have a full slew of integrations that you have to manage. And let alone, there's also, layers of normalization and deduplication that I know that Ordr puts on top. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Totally experiment with how you can present this idea to your team, but you definitely got to invest in solutions that are already out there like Ordr.
That's one of my frustrations, Ron, is that from an asset inventory, and this is why the government regulations are going to push it harder. From an asset inventory management perspective, there's some pain, but not a lot of pain. On the pain scale, there are like at a 2 or 3. I've got my inventory of my stuff and I keep track of it real good. But every enclave, every department within IT, within the security has to have their own little spreadsheet. So they're all at a pain level of 3. And nobody's at a pain level of 9 because I've had my spreadsheet that I've built forever, and this is how we've always maintained our inventory. Why be at a pain level of 3 when it could be 0? Let the machine, essentially, let the machines do the inventory for you. That's what we're doing is, hey, let the machines tell you what's out there, and we'll come back and dedupe and deconflict and correlate and stuff and tell you what it really is. So go from a 3 to a 0 on a pain scale. It really is that every place has their own methodology for keeping inventory of their stuff. And that pain level is only like a 2 or 3. Yeah, it's a pain in the butt, but yeah, we can do it. It doesn't make going out and doing an RFP. It's too much work for me to get rid. But there's like 17 departments across your organization that are doing that pain level 3 all the time. The use cases, the time savings, and actually the application rationalization that you can do when you know everything about everything on your network is pretty astounding.
Do you have this solution deployed for any client in the restaurant or hotel industry that is micro-segmented? And micro-segmentation in this situation is hybrid, cloud, BYOD. Have you been deployed in restaurant and hospitality?
The value that you get is industry agnostic, frankly. I'm from healthcare, but if I were, I've got a buddy who's doing manufacturing orthotics, and I'm talking to him about it because, if you have a network and if you have stuff connected to your network, we can see everything on that network. It doesn't matter the industry. And so then you can do these use cases in a restaurant, in a hotel. Okay, I've got, why do I have 500 Microsoft licenses? I only have 6 people logging into Microsoft at any one time. Let me reduce, it's the same use cases that you can do industry agnostic when you know everything about everything on the network. Most restaurants that I go to, they're using Meraki, and we have one heck of an integration with Meraki that we can tell you a bunch of stuff about what's on your network.
So, let's say someone was from the, maybe not the restaurant, because you're saying there might not be too many that you're aware of there, but the hotel or hospitality industry, there's always that differentiator that makes you lean into one product over another. I think CAASM for the cyber industry is just a net positive, but there's things that some solutions do better than others. What does Ordr do better than most, if not all of them?
First and foremost, we find And secondly, identify. That's the knowing part that I'm talking about. We know more about devices on your network than any other vendor out there. And so that gives us a huge advantage in the use cases that you can bring forward. One, the deep packet inspection that we can do for OT, non-PC kind of, non-IT equipment, the deep packet inspection that we can do for IoT and OT, and where I come from, IOMT devices is bar none better than anybody else's. The Ordr software inventory collector, that is a differentiator. Other CAASM products don't bring that to you, that software inventory collection. And of course, the Ordr discovery engine, which is part of that, we see everything that other folks do. If you any just normal CAASM vendor that hasn't been in the OT, IoT, IOMT space won't know that, hey, we should look for things that don't talk to APIs. Because that's what CAASM is focused on, is if it talks to an API, we'll tell you about it. Now, if it talks to an API or it doesn't talk to an API, Ordr will tell you about it.
Love that. I think that's a really good differentiator, especially considering the fact that you're saying, again and again, APIs are how we get this data, but not everyone has an API. I remember when I first wanted to purchase an ASM product, I just wanted a VMware integration. That's all I wanted. If I had that one thing, it would, make my life easier. And I'm sure, Ordr has that. And, when you're looking for specific solutions, you're looking for that one thing. Reflecting back on your time as a CISO or even CTO, what was that one data point that gave you the hardest challenge that you couldn't really get a grasp on?
Yeah, this was the one. This was the last itch I scratched before I left the field, the operations side of the house. This one has this issue, this complete asset inventory management knowledge. Again, this has been an issue that has hamstrung the IT and the cybersecurity community from day one. It's this, having these lists of inventories that then you have to mash together and that are just completely monuments. They do an inventory. Yeah, we did our inventory last year. No, there are tools out there. You can have a continuous inventory. I can tell you anything new that came onto your network in the last 24 hours, in the last 36 hours. I can tell you stuff I haven't seen on your network. I saw this before, but I haven't seen it in 30 days. That kind of stuff, when you put it all together, makes CAASM from Ordr a different product than CAASM from other folks.
A whole different beast.
It's a whole different beast, Ron.
There's one more question before we start wrapping up. Would you consider IT asset management a prerequisite for CAASM? If so, you said no.
Ooh, okay. Don't even have to get to an if so. No, not at all. I think CAASM, particularly CAASM, not just Ordr CAASM, but CAASM will give you an IT asset inventory, period. I mean, that's what CAASM is made for, is to give you an IT asset inventory. So no, don't spend the time doing that. Bring in a CAASM vendor like Ordr. We can get you that IT PC asset inventory. Hell, it's a matter of hours. All you got to do is, there's almost 200 and 190 plus integrations in Ordr. All you got to do is, those integrations are to the APIs that you're running already on your in your organization. All you have to do is put in the keys, the password for those API keys. We start getting data, and voila, you have an IT asset inventory right there. I mean, it's that easy from an IT perspective. Now, for printers and stuff like that, you should bring in Ordr, because then we send commands out over the network to tell you where all your printers are at, and then of course tell you where all your non-IT stuff is at. But no, don't think that you have to do anything with inventory before you bring in a CAASM product. Bring it in, let CAASM do the inventory for you.
I think it's actually better that way, because once once you start with the CAASM, it kind of serves its purpose, and you could decide, all right, do I need a CMDB or do I need something else? Do I need what works best for my environment?
It's a really great CMDB starter. So if you don't have a CMDB right now, and a lot of SMB, small medium businesses don't, they can't afford it and don't have the manpower to run it. If you don't have a CMDB right now, we'll get you most of that way with the Ordr database. It can act. It can be your CMDB. And then as you grow and you go to a ServiceNow or somebody else, well, then we can just port all that that data over so that you can start your CMDB journey 80% of the way done.
If someone were, learning more about it, or, wanting to learn more about Ordr, what would be the best place for them to start?
Of course, ordr.net. That's our website. But if you have specific questions, I'm Wes at ordr.net. Go ahead and shoot me an email. I don't know if you could tell, but I love talking about this stuff. I think it's fundamentally going to transform how we do IT operations and security if we can get everybody working from that known good asset inventory.
Couldn't agree more. Like Wes said, he's an open book. He is listed as a speaker in the event, so be sure to connect with Wes over LinkedIn. Also, be sure to follow our friends and also our kind sponsors for this live stream, Ordr. You can do so by going to ordr.net. We've also dropped in a few links into the chat wherever you're streaming or watching this. Wes, I wanted to say thank you again from the bottom of our hearts for taking some time out of your busy day, jump on the mics with us. And with that, we will see everyone next time.